Greetings everyone, this is a final part of this series of setting up this shallow South American biotope tank, and in this video I will be showing you several unboxings of some new fish which I've ordered for this tank, and also how I quarantined them and how I released them in this tank. So this is a slightly longer video than other episodes of this series, so I hope you'll nevertheless stay with it until the end. And yeah, so basically this is a last kind of a moment of setting up the system, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed this series, and of course I'll keep you updated on how this tank is doing. So we've got a box with new fish. It's actually from Abyss Aquatics. You can see here on the seal, and let's have a look at what's inside. I will try to open the box with one hand while making a video. So there is a styrofoam box inside, which is a great thing, and I'll need to figure out how to get it out. Okay, we've got here some candies, and here are the fish. These are actually Cardinal arcuatus, and I've ordered 12 of them, I think, and it seems like they're actually all individually packed, which is interesting. Yes, they are all individually packed. Well, it is interesting because there's a lot of bags in here, and yeah, there's some pieces of food and some pieces of poop, so they haven't been properly prepared for shipment. Right, so I'm going to put them all into a temporary container where I will drip acclimate them before I add them to the quarantine tank. So the fish are in this temporary container where I basically drip acclimate them, and I didn't film how I opened the bags because there was a bit of a disaster actually. All of this 12 Cardinal arcuatus which I've bought, they were bagged individually, so, and there was lots of fish food inside of those bags, so the water was absolutely foul, and I could smell ammonia, so the fish were obviously not in a very good shape when they have arrived, because for some reason they were apparently fed before shipping. I have no other explanation as to why there was so much uneaten fish food inside their bags. So there was an ammonia spike. They seem to be fine. I've added some methylene blue. You can see the water is bluish. That should help to deal with ammonia, and that should help to deal with infections at this point. I've added an air stone, and I'm constantly adding some fresh water from the quarantine tank, which is this aquarium in here. So it has some catappa leaves for disinfection. It has a cave for a pleco, because there is one pleco in here. And yeah, basically I will add some cycled sponges from this tank here. These are the sponges. I will add them to this sponge filter in here, and the tank will be more than prepared for them in a moment. But I will have to drip acclimate them like this for a certain period of time, because they have arrived in relatively poor shape. So we have here 12 Cardinal arcuatus, 6 Pristella tetras, and 1 leopard cactus pleco. All of them are unfortunately not in the best shape, but I have plenty of experience with receiving fish in relatively poor condition, so I'll hopefully will be able to get them into good shape. And in any case, I will go through quarantine, and they would be absolutely fine. So I'll close this bucket with a lid for now, and I'll let them calm down. I'll let them acclimate to these conditions, while I'll keep on adding water from the quarantine tank to this bucket. It's been approximately 2 hours since I added fish to this acclimatization bucket, and I think they should be good to go into the quarantine tank. Check what's happening in here. Well, everyone is alive, and that's a good sign. I will catch them and move them into the quarantine tank. The water parameters are now similar, so the temperature is similar, and well, pH should be more or less similar, because much of this water is actually from the quarantine tank. So the fish have been added to the quarantine tank. It's actually quite hard to film them in here because there is no lights in here, and they're kind of all hiding in the back. So Arcuatus coris are over there. They're hiding, which is typical of coris. And Pristella tetras are more active, and they're actually out and about, and I've thrown them some food, so they've eaten some flakes already. And the cactus, leopard cactus pleco, is hiding in this cave here. I've seen its tail popping up, but obviously it's not going to come out, and it will take me a while to get this pleco adapted, to make sure that it's feeding properly. So it's going to stay either in this or some other quarantine tank for quite some period of time. I would say probably for a couple of months or something like that, before I'm absolutely sure that it's feeding, that it's feeling well. So yeah, basically this is just a basic quarantine tank. There are some catappa leaves on the bottom to disinfect the water, and a piece of driftwood from an established tank transferring over the bacteria, a sponge filter and a heater, and nothing else. And finally we've got another shipment of fish. This will be actually kind of the main species that will live in this new shallow South American biotope setup. It's from Tropco, as you can see on the box. I've ordered fish from them before, and they're usually very well packaged, and they normally arrive in a good shape. Okay, here's one enormous bag, apparently with a whole bunch of smaller bags. They use zip ties, which is unfortunate because there's no way I can get it off. I'll have to cut the bag, and the bag will be gone. I prefer to keep the bags, but when they're tied up in this way. Alright, these bags also have these metal clips on them, which means I will have to cut through them. This is quite unfortunate. So what do we have here? We have here Cardinal tetras. We should have 70 Cardinal tetras in total. They are of course scared and absolutely colorless, stressed out, which is what you would expect from fish during shipping. When I previously ordered Cardinal tetras from Tropco, they would actually put catappa leaves in individual bags to keep the fish alive and healthy during the shipping. Quite a lot of poop, which means that the fish have not been conditioned prior to shipping. They've probably been fed before fishing and before shipping. That's quite unfortunate. Previously, suppliers used to condition fish before shipping, so this situation does not happen. But that's where we are now. Okay, so I will check the temperature. 27 degrees Celsius, that's quite a lot. I don't know how well. Oh, there's quite a bunch of heat packs. I've taken 2 heat packs from down there, and there's a whole bunch of heat packs in here. I think they've overdone a bit with heat packs. 27 degrees, certainly fine for Cardinal tetras, but somewhat on a higher end. All right, so I probably will drip acclimate them before moving them into their quarantine tank. Yeah, so the fish, and more precisely, there should be 70 Cardinal tetras. They are acclimating. So basically, I'm just temperature acclimating them for now in the quarantine tank. There's no one else in this quarantine tank, and you can see that the water is yellow. That's because I've added some catappa leaves in here, alder cones, and I've also added some rooibos tea in order to create this black water environment, which would be quite relaxing for them, because cardinals are usually black water fish and they would feel more at ease in black water. Now I think I'm gonna just release them into the quarantine tank. The lights are off in here, so they should be quite comfortable in here. And all the Cardinal tetras have been added to the quarantine tank. All of them are alive actually. I will switch on lights just for this moment to film them, because otherwise it's quite hard to see them. It's just for a while. I don't want to stress them out too much. I've bought actually the smallest size Cardinal tetras, not necessarily because they're cheaper, but normally when I am buying small tetras, Cardinal tetras, neon tetras, and black neon tetras, basically all small species of tetra, I'm trying to buy the smallest specimens available, kind of the youngest ones, because most of these fish, they are not long-lived actually. When it comes to Cardinal tetras, they live on average a couple of years. Well, some of them will probably live longer, and I've had Cardinal tetras which have lived up to 5 years, but these are exceptions. Most of them will live for a couple of years and they will be gone. In nature they live only for a season, so they're called seasonal fish. They just live until the dry season. That's when they die down, and essentially these are not long-lived fish, and that's why when you see these jumbo cardinals being sold in fish stores for quite a lot of money, they're obviously quite bright, they're large, and they look spectacular, they cost a lot, but most likely they're already a year and a half or almost 2 years old, so you would pay quite a lot for them, and they are not likely to live long for you. And these guys here, they're still very young. This is the smallest size I could buy, and well, once acclimated they will live quite long, and they can be quite hardy actually. Yes, Cardinal tetras are quite notorious for being difficult to acclimate and difficult to transport, so that's a challenge, and the first couple of days here in this quarantine tank will be decisive for them. If they make it through this couple of days, then they will be fine, and then they will grow and prosper, so to say. But for now, we'll see. There's actually one that's kind of on the bottom and feeling sorry for himself, so that's probably a fish that's not going to make through. But I normally expect some losses from this number of fish when I'm buying literally 70 fish. It's quite normal to lose a few of them because of transportation stress. And yeah, I'll keep you updated on. So we have another delivery, and this is kind of the third one which I was expecting. I already showed you 2 previous deliveries. These are the fish partly for our display tank and partly for possibly a couple of breeding projects which I'm planning to start in this tiny fish room space which I've started. So these fish are from Fish Barn. I bought fish from Fish Barn before, and they just have amazing customer service, and the quality of fish is just probably one of the best in the UK, and they specialize in rare tropical fish, and literally every species within this box, well except this one, should be relatively rare in the UK. So let's get started. Oh, that's very nice. That actually lets air inside and allows heat packs to work properly. So that's something. Okay, let's have a look at what do we have inside. All right, very nicely packed, and quite a few heat packs. Okay, so we have here Aphaearchus raspberry, or I think it's called green storm, a green belly tetra or something like that. Aphaearchus raspberry is quite a rare fish in the UK actually. The reason why I have been looking for them is because they can live in unheated tanks, and this is what I'm basically planning to create. I'm planning to create a South American unheated setup, and they would be a perfect match for that. Temperature is at 22 degrees Celsius, which is great actually, because it was a cold night and really cold morning. That's just an empty bag. So that's the supplier's kind of a business card with a name. This is Corydoras aenius Trinidad. Essentially this is a wild bronze chorus, but these fish are actually wild, and they are not overbred like most of the bronze chorus that we have for sale in pet stores. And they should have great colors on them. They're obviously quite stressed right now, so there's not much to see. Oh, there's two of them in here actually. Wonderful. And these are also basically fish that can live in room temperature, and they will be perfect tank mates for Aphaearchus. This is Ancestors L39. I don't remember the common name for it. It looks a bit like honeycomb Ancestors. A beautiful fish. Unfortunately, they only had two of those, and I'm not sure whether these are male and female. This actually, oh, that's definitely a male. You can see some extensions on its nose. It's young, but it's male. It's wonderful to have a pair actually. I don't know whether they will breed or not, but we'll see about that. These are more Corydoras aenius Trinidad, and I can already see great colors on this fish. Even after all this transportation and all this stress, they still show quite this brilliant green and yellowish colors on the bottom. And yeah, I'm hoping to breed this fish actually. More Corydoras aenius Trinidad. Okay, let's have a look what's happening in the quarantine facility. This will be kind of a breeding room and / quarantine facility later on, but now it is only a quarantine facility. Most of these fish which I've unboxed in this video, and some of them I have not unboxed because I've bought them at various local fish stores recently, but they're still being quarantined in these several tanks. I'm going to take you through these tanks to see what's happening. Well, in here I didn't have enough sponge filter, so I added this small one, and obviously it can't handle the bioload, so the water is a bit murky. The water parameters are fine, but it's just a bit murky. So in here we have a group of Phaeocharox rasbani, green belly tetra, I believe it's called, which we received from fish barn. They're kind of scared right now. There's also a small group of over here glow light tetras, erythrozonus, hemigrammus erythrozonus, which I will be moving to our display tank, and Phaeocharox rasbani, they will be part of a unheated kind of a South American setup, which I will create in this tank down here, but for now they are being quarantined in here. There's also a group of Corydoros aenius Trinidad. They're all hiding and they're doing good. What else do we have in here? We have here Ancistrus L393, and they are of course hiding as well. They are most likely a pair because they're male and female, and I will try to breed them, so I will keep them in this tank in here. This will be a tank where they will stay, only them and nothing else. Yeah, that's it for this tank. I bought some large water lettuce in a local fish store, and it doesn't seem to be doing well actually. There's nothing else in this tank. In this tank I have quite a collection of fish which are being quarantined. You can see rubber-nosed plecos escaping into hiding. There's actually 5 of them. There are males and females, and they will also go into that unheated South American biotope setup down here because they enjoy cooler temperatures and they enjoy flow, and this is what I will create down there, and hopefully they will form a breeding group. I'm sorry about the reflection, there's just no other way around it. There are also some quite a few Otocinclus catfish which I've bought in order to add to main display tank, because I had a pair, well, a couple over there. They were not a pair, but one of them passed away recently, so I decided to buy more in order to make that solo Otocinclus happier. There are also 2 Sorpa tetras. These are kind of survivors from my older group. They're quite old, and yeah, there were about 10 or 15 of them. I've had them for years, and these 2 are the only survivors. They're quite large. I will also add them to that unheated system, and probably I will get more Sorpa tetras so that they are not lonely. And lastly, what do we have in here? In here we have 70 Cardinal tetras. They are actually doing quite well. They're feeding well, they're feeling well. I haven't seen a single dead one so far, so I think they are healthy and they're ready to be moved to our display tank. And this will free up this tank for unheated cold water system. We also have here a cactus leopard pleco, and to be honest, I'm not sure whether this pleco is feeding. I've never seen it feeding. I saw bloodworms usually later in the evening. In the morning there's no sign of them, and they're too large for cardinals to be eaten, so I assume that cactus pleco is probably feeding on them, but I've never seen it feeding, so I will keep it in one probably in this tank for a certain period of time until I'm absolutely sure that it is feeding properly before I will move him or her to the display tank, because unless I'm 100% confident that a pleco is feeding, I will not add it to a display tank because it can just starve there to death. Yeah, so the cardinals, we bought them quite small, actually the smallest size available, but they've already gained some weight and some size. You can see they have plump bellies. I'm feeding them 3 times per day with flakes, quality flakes, and frozen brine shrimp, and they just devour everything. They will be a very beautiful school in our display tank. Yeah, essentially this is the purpose of my quarantine systems: to make sure that the fish are healthy, new arrivals are healthy, and to make sure that they're feeding well and they are in a good condition in order to be moved to to the display tank, so that they can actually fend for themselves, they can find food, and they're actually strong fish. They're not the fish that will be stressed out, will get sick, and possibly also transfer diseases to my other fish. And this is a case of a success in this particular case. All of these fish, well, the ones that I've said will go into display tank, will go into our display tank. I've added the doors to the display tank and the sides, the side panels, so it looks much better than it used to look before. The only problem is water. You can see I've tried to make it black water, and I think I've overdone it a little bit. It's a bit too black even for me. I need to add a bit more of clear water, filter tap water, in order to dilute it, because currently the level of tannins is just too much. You can see from the top, you can hardly see what's happening in there. And I actually only added 8 spoons of rooibos tea, and the rest of the tannins actually came from that aquatic compost which I've added to the substrate, and also the botanicals. They leach quite a lot of tannins, and this is the outcome. I certainly want this tank to be black water, but a bit clearer black water, not such a dark black water.